watching the official podcast of Sound Creation Intelligence. I am Scientific SD, and thank you all for checking me out. In today's podcast, I wanted to go over one of the challenges that I faced with the creation of the vessel notes. I'm sure a lot of us sound designers have taken pure basic waveforms and turned them into synth sounds or bell sounds or all these different types of sounds that you can create using a sine wave, a sawtooth wave, a triangle wave, or a square waveform. And vessel notes kind of takes that same concept and technique and applies it. But one of the challenges that I faced was creating texture using that source audio sound and just making it sound lush. So we're going to dive right into this. So for instance, let's say that Al could be up here. Let's say that you have any basic waveform. Some waveforms are better than others, depending on what type of sound you're trying to make. But let's just say that you're trying to make some type of really nice synth sound. And you want to start off by using a basic waveform, where that's pretty simple enough, right? So let's just say we have this sound here. Okay. Now just record that. Okay. So here I have a simple waveform. And then I'll just record that. All right, there we go. So let's say that you wanted to use this to create a synth sound from scratch, okay? It's basically creating your synth sound from scratch. And you wanted to use this simple waveform here. As your source sound. But you want this sound to have some texture and sound lush and really nice and beautiful. Well, this is one of the challenges that I faced in the vessel notes. With the vessel notes, I'm using live recordings that I go out and capture, but the same technique can be applied. And I had a challenge getting past the stage, or just coming up with some really unique ideas that I could use to really get this type of sound to, have some lushness about it. So let's dig into this right here. So, of course, when we use these pure basic waveforms to create to be the source sound for creating creating our own signature synth pads, of course we want the sound to sound good. A lot of times we find ourselves just basically doing something like this. I have some inserts here. So one of the main things we would probably do is add some reverb, correct? Okay. So that reverb did what it did. You can even add some delay. I got to insert here with a delay on it. All right. And that changes up some things. What are some of the other things that we do? Like if I would have left this in Alchemy, for instance, of course, we would deal with the ADSR or AHDSR, the attack, hold, decay, sustain, and release. That can make your sound kind of like the attack fade in a little bit and fade out a little bit. But those things don't really add that texture that makes the sound really nice and lush and beautiful. And so this is one of the challenges that I have faced in the creation of Vessel Notes, even though I used and even though I use live audio recordings. So the question and the challenge for me was, how do I make the source recording have a lush type of sound and a lush type of texture? How do I make that sound beautiful? Just playing a note like this. Well, the first answer that I arrived to was a whole lot of patience, a whole lot of damn patience. And the reason being is because I'm going to have to, I learned that I had to apply a lot of processes. But the first thing that I learned was that I needed to do this. I needed layers. Okay. So that was the first thing that I learned in the challenge of the Vessel Notes to get a really nice and lush sound. I needed multiple layers. And that takes a lot of time and that takes a lot of patience. Okay. So going deeper, of course, we know that applying different effects processes, not including other musical elements, like layering it with another synth's musical sound, literally coming up with these sounds on your own. One of the things that we do know is that we can use reverb. But the question then becomes, well, what type of reverb? How do you apply reverb? And so I learned over time that it paid off for me to have multiple types of reverbs that I could experiment around with to get different results from the source audio. So let's start with reverb, and I'll show you how I actually take this one sound and make it more lush and make it more beautiful. Now, the reason why I would actually work in Ableton to make this sound more lush and make it more beautiful directly on the board instead of doing it inside of any synth is because if I'm working on the board, working with the audio, and I'm making multiple instances of the audio, I can just create infinite tracks, infinite layers. Okay, I can mix those tracks down, I can bounce them out, and things like that, things of that nature. So I want to be able to have free control over these layers. I want to be able to stack them a numerous amount of times. And then as far as effects are concerned, I have all of the native effects in Ableton at my disposal, as well as all of the plugins that I have. I have all of these at my disposal as I'm stacking these to scope this sound. So let's look at one thing that I do. So boom, here's a stack. I'm going to keep this as the original. Okay. So I just call this original sound. Okay. And then here, I'm going to apply reverb to this sound. All right, and so with this one, now I'm going to apply reverb. So having multiple reverbs at your disposal, like I say, is invaluable. And I'll just go here to one of the reverbs that I use a lot in sculpting and creating the sounds of the vessel notes. I'll pull ROM from Native Instruments onto this board here. And for the sake of this podcast, real world, real time, I'll use just the presets. I'll just use a lot of presets and whatever the effects modules that I pull up. So ROM is a reverb plugin, but I love it because ROM can really change the sonic character, tone, and texture of a sound. So let's just go through some of these and you'll see exactly what I mean. So I can pick from a multitude of different presets. I can just use creative presets. As you can see, you have drones, dark sinisters, stab tails, a whole lot of things. They got small, medium, large, and then echoes. So for here, I'm going to use something large. And I want to use something large to create distance. It's going to move the original sound further away from the perceptible ear and listening experience. And so what you're going to get is a more of a wet sound, which is what I want, because I want to keep the same tone of the original, but I just want it to sound more distant and ambient. Okay, so I'm just going to create some ambience in this. All right, so let's go with the dreamy synth and just see what it sounds like. Okay, and so that sounds good, but as you can hear, it's still, you can still hear the original sound in this particular audio track, even with the effects on it, but you can now hear the ambience in it. So I'm just going to take that and make it fully wet. All right, and so now I got it fully wet and I got a nice ambient sound. So I'm just going to leave this like this. And then I'll play it back with the original. Okay. Then I'll turn it off. And so I'm going to keep this just like this, okay? But what I'll do is I just want to go on and render that out as a fully wet sound. So I'm just going to take it and resample it. All right, and there we have it. And so now that's done. I can get rid of that, okay? And you play these back together and you get this. Okay. Next, maybe that's not ambient enough. Okay. So if I want it to be even more ambient, I'll pull the ROM back on here. going on? Sorry about that. Not sure what's going on. Why it's doing that? Okay. All right. And so I have that same instance that I rendered out, that I resampled, I mean, and then I'm going to apply another instance of ambience or reverb to the exact same sound that I put the reverb on the first time. And I'm going to go here and do it again with the same sound. And this is just if I make it all the way wet. So if I make it all the way wet, you can hear it. It sounds good depending on your choice of what you like. But I like it here. It sounds really smooth here. All right. And so now it's really ambient. I'm just going to resample this again. So I just gave it another instance. I've ran it through 2 instances of reverb. All right, and I'll cut right here and I'll delete that. Okay, so if I play these both together, okay, then I'll just do some fading, because now I want to try to start blending these together. Okay. And I'm actually doing ADS ARIA. I'm just doing it manually, and I'm giving my release it's a little character. Okay, and I might want to fade in the original sound a little bit. And I actually think I could have made this a little bit longer. So what I'll do here is I'm going to extend this out a little bit. So I'm going to extend this a little bit, warp it. I'll put it back here. All right, that's better. And then I'll consolidate it. I just needed a little bit more length on this one here, just so I can apply fades to it. All right, so that sounds good. All right, so we've applied reverb to it, okay? So what else can we do to try to get this sound a little bit more lush? Okay, we've applied some reverb. So now let's think about what else we use in creating original sounds and giving them a more lush and really beautiful type of sound and character. All right, so another thing that we use is delay. So how can we use delay? So let's check this out. Let's use some delay here. So here, I'm going to apply delay. And for delay, I'll go to Ableton's audio effects, and It doesn't matter which delay I use. Any delay will probably work. So let's just throw a grain delay on here, okay? Let's listen to this. So with the delay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this audio. Okay. And I'm going to use a really small part of this delay. Okay. So let's put some delay on here. And let's see if the grain delay, okay, so let's use the delay, high drive, kick toner, rumble. Let's use a different delay. Let's just use the standard delay. Or let's see. Yeah, let's just use the standard delay. So this is ambient spaces, clean, modulated delay, others, vintage delay. So let's use ambient delay. So let's try disharmonics. Okay, I knew something was going on. Let's just run through a couple of these and see what we come up with. Let's do modulated. Okay, let's play around with this. Okay. So now I just use delay to just create kind of a sound effect in this. So let's listen to all this together. Okay. So not really sounding like too much. So what can we do? Let's pitch shift it here. Okay. Let's adjust the feedback. Okay. 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 So we got that. We can actually ping pong this as well. What else can we do to it? We can go to Complex Pro here and do a little bit more stuff to it. Actually turn it up some and just play around with it. So let's listen to this. Okay. So we got that. All right, and maybe I'll stretch it. Okay, warp it back. keep that just to see what happens. Okay. And then I resample this. And I'm going to let that play all the way out. And so now I'm going to delete this and I'll keep this. And now what I can do is take parts of this. All right, so I can go right off in here's. Okay, so now let's play all of this together. Okay. Now open it up some. Let's get a little bit more sound in there. Let's do a little bit more. Okay. And so now we have that. Then maybe I'll fade this in. So now what do we have? Okay. So now that we have those three things, because those are two of the most basic things we like to implement into the sound to start to make it a little bit more lush. And I think there's one more thing that we really like to use, which is chorus. So here's another thing that I like to do in Ableton. I like to group these, okay? But before I get into doing the grouping, let's look at the volume, the balance of the sound. So balancing your sound can go a long way, okay? Because balancing helps to blend all of these things together. So let's listen to this blend and apply a few changes. Okay. So I could just simply do this. Sounds pretty good to me. All right, and so now let's go into some chorus. And Ableton's chorus is pretty nice. Let's just pull out some presets and see if there's anything in it that I like. See gamma rays. Sounds pretty all right. But it really changes the sound. I want it to retain the sound. Okay, that ain't bad. Let's put it around. Okay, so I can take some of that off. Okay, so I got chorus on there. And then let's think about another thing that can be utilized. Now, this is one of the things that I had to learn the hard way just because I was intimidated by trying it. It's actually using an EQ, right? And we're talking about shaping this sound. Like that's literally what we're doing. We're shaping it. And there's it's like a ton of things you can do, but let's shape it a little bit with an EQ. So I'll just go right here to Fab Filter and just do a little bit of EQing just to shape the sound a little bit. Or I can go to some presets. Not really sure how the presets would work with this, but let's just try some. Let's do this. All right, so I just used the Fab Filter EQ just to shape the group sound using the choir, fullness, and air. And it sounds pretty nice. Okay. And so that sounds pretty good as well. So now anything goes because we've used the original sound, we've used the ambient version of the sound and the delay version of the sound. So after this, anything can go to make this sound really good. And the next challenge, well, the challenge also of doing the Vessel Note sounds in this way also revealed to me that the amount of tools you have at your disposal can make all the difference in the world. So I have a tool, I have a lot of tools, but I have a tool that I really love to use. It's called Things Texture. And it's by this is Audio Things, I believe. Make sure I'm saying their name right. Yeah, Audio Thing. And this plugin sounds really good. It's a reverb plugin, and it allows you to process whatever sounds you run through it on a granular level or reverb level, and it just really sounds good. So let's do this. This is something I love to do with this. All right, and so you can hear how that sounds. I can go higher. All right, so let's leave that on there. And then I think I'll go back here and apply another instance of reverb to this sound, actually. So let's listen to this. And I could go on and on and on, but as you can see now, I've created a much more lush sound. So listen to what can be done with this. Right here, I can get a full, right at this setting, down here at the dry wet, at this setting, I can hear all of the sounds, but they sound more cohesive. They got a nice glue. And so what I can do here is another audio track that I'll resample. And then I'll catch everything. And so now I have this. And that is how you can make a much more fuller, lush sound. Some of the ways that I found in my challenges with the Vessel Note, how I can take an original audio source recording and add in effects processes, add different layers, add different effects to layers. I didn't even put any effects on the individual tracks, but I could actually go and do that as well. But this is one of the ways that I actually go about creating a lush sound using basic waveforms or any audio source that I use to create my synth sounds from scratch, and make them fuller, bigger, sound more lush, and then turn those into multi-layered musical notes that can then be used to create audio productions with. And the way that I would do that is I would basically go here to this sound, for instance, export it. I'll just throw this on the desktop. Example, lush waveform, save it. Just to put it to practice, put it in a musical context to see how it sounds. I'll delete all of this. I'm not going to keep this. And then I can go here. I didn't tune this or anything. You would want to tune the sound that you create and all of that. I didn't do that on this podcast, but maybe on another podcast I can go even in more depth and show how I take this even further. But here I'll just take some free MIDI chords here. Turn this down. All right, I'll just use that. And then I'll go to the desktop. I'll pull that example lush waveform, put it here. Just drag and drop it into an Ableton simpler or sampler or whatever sampler you use. I could have dropped this into Alchemy if I wanted to. Whatever sampler you have, and then you play it. Then afterwards, I can begin to manipulate and play around with this sound. The reason why it probably doesn't sound that great is because this isn't tuned. But let's see if I can come up with a little nice sound here. Listen to this. Okay, so I just took the loop marker, the start marker, and just put it in a different area because back here it just didn't sound in tune. Okay, so I just picked out a certain area where I heard it sound pretty decent, and boom, listen. Then you can loop it. Okay. right, y'all. That's all for this podcast. I hope that you found this useful in your sound design endeavors when you want to create sounds from scratch, and understanding how you can take basic waveforms or any audio source recording that you've captured and not just apply reverb to that main source sound, um, and not really be, too happy with the result that you get. This is a way that you can make those sounds sound a lot more lush, a lot more beautiful, um, and really get some nice character out of the sounds that you are creating from scratch. All right, until the next time, this is Scientific SD. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And until the next time, let's keep being technically creative. All right, y'all. Peace.